You've meditated for years. You've read the texts. You understand consciousness, awareness, the nature of the self. You've done the inner work that most people never even consider. And yet, when it comes to love, when it comes to intimate relationships, you find yourself utterly alone. Not just alone in body, but alone in a way that feels profound, confusing, even cruel. You wonder, if I've awakened to so much, why does love remain such a mystery? Why can't I connect with another human being in the way I connect with the universe itself? This is not your failure. This is not evidence that your spiritual journey has been misguided. What you're experiencing is one of the great paradoxes of the awakened life, and it's something that Alan Watts spent considerable time exploring in his teachings. The very qualities that make you spiritually aware, the very insights that have freed you from so much suffering, can simultaneously create an invisible barrier between you and romantic love. Let's start with something fundamental that Watts understood deeply. The moment you begin seeking love, you've already lost it. Think about that for a moment. Really let it sink in. The spiritually awake person often becomes acutely aware of their desire for a partner. They see this desire clearly, perhaps too clearly. They observe it, analyze it, try to understand its roots. And in doing so, they create a separation between themselves and the very experience they're longing for. Watts would say that this is like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. The seeker and the sought cannot be separated, and yet in our seeking, we create that very separation. When you're searching for love, you're operating from a premise of lack. You're saying to the universe, to yourself, to potential partners, I am incomplete. I need something outside myself to make me whole. And ironically, this vibration of lack, this energy of seeking, is precisely what repels the very thing you desire. But here's where it gets tricky for the spiritually aware person. You've been taught, perhaps correctly, that you are already whole, that you are complete, that everything you need is already within you. And this is true, profoundly true. But then you take this truth and you use it as a shield. You use it to protect yourself from the vulnerability that love requires. You tell yourself, I don't need anyone. I am complete. I am whole. And in doing so, you close the door to intimacy before it even has a chance to open. The spiritually awake person becomes an observer. This is one of the core practices, isn't it? To witness your thoughts, to observe your emotions without becoming entangled in them, to create space between stimulus and response. This is powerful. This is transformative. But in the realm of romantic love, this observer consciousness can become a prison. You meet someone, there's a spark, and immediately you're watching yourself experience that spark. You're noting it, analyzing it, questioning whether it's real or just biochemistry, wondering if this person is truly aligned with your spiritual path or if you're just projecting. And while you're busy observing, life is passing you by. The moment is escaping. That other person is there, present, vulnerable, reaching out, and you're 3 steps removed, watching the whole thing from behind the glass wall of your awareness. They feel it, even if they can't name it. They feel that you're not really there, that some essential part of you is holding back, staying safe, remaining untouchable. Watts had this beautiful way of describing the difference between knowing about something and knowing something directly. You can know all about water, study its chemical composition, understand its properties, read every book ever written about water, but until you jump in, Until you get wet, you don't actually know water. Love is the same. You can understand love philosophically, psychologically, spiritually. You can have profound insights about the nature of connection and union. But until you actually allow yourself to fall, to lose control, to become vulnerable and messy and human, you're just knowing about love. You're not actually loving. And this is terrifying for the spiritually aware person, because spiritual practice often feels safe. Meditation is safe. Reading Watts is safe. Contemplating the nature of consciousness is safe. These practices don't require you to risk rejection. They don't demand that you show someone your shadows, your insecurities, your neediness, your human messiness. Spiritual practice, when misused, becomes a sophisticated form of avoidance. Let's talk about the spiritual ego, because this is where things get really interesting. You might think you've transcended ego. You've done the work, after all. You understand that the separate self is an illusion. You've had experiences of unity, of oneness, of boundlessness. But here's what happens. The ego doesn't die. It just puts on new clothes. It becomes the spiritual ego. And the spiritual ego is perhaps the most insidious form of ego there is, precisely because it disguises itself as egolessness. The spiritual ego looks at potential partners and judges them. Oh, they're not conscious enough. They haven't done the work. They're still caught up in drama and materialism. They wouldn't understand my journey. This judgment feels justified because it's wrapped in spiritual language, but it's still separation. It's still the ego protecting itself, creating distance, maintaining its sense of specialness. And make no mistake, the spiritual ego loves to feel special. It loves the identity of being awakened, of being different, of seeing what others don't see. It creates a hierarchy where spiritual people are somehow better than non-spiritual people, where conscious relationships are superior to ordinary relationships, where awakened love is more real than regular love. This is ego, pure ego, dressed in robes and prayer beads, but ego nonetheless. Watts would laugh at this. He'd point out that the moment you think you're awakened, you're asleep again. The moment you believe you're more conscious than someone else, you've fallen back into the very illusion you claim to have transcended. True awakening, true consciousness doesn't separate. It doesn't judge. It doesn't create hierarchies. It sees the divine in everyone, in every expression of life, no matter how seemingly unconscious or mundane. So what happens? You meet someone, maybe they don't meditate, maybe they haven't read any spiritual texts, maybe they watch reality TV and work a corporate job and have never questioned the nature of reality, and you dismiss them. You don't even give them a chance, because they don't fit your idea of what a spiritual partner should be. And in doing so, you miss the opportunity to see God in an unexpected form. You miss the chance to be surprised, to be challenged, to grow in ways your spiritual practice alone never could. Or maybe you do find someone who seems spiritually aligned. You meet at a meditation retreat or a yoga class. You have the same vocabulary. You both talk about energy and vibration and consciousness. Perfect, right? But then something else happens. You create a relationship based on spiritual concept rather than genuine human connection. You're both so busy being conscious, so busy maintaining your spiritual personas, that you never actually reveal who you really are. You never fight. You never get messy. You never show your jealousy or your pettiness or your neediness, because that wouldn't be spiritual. And so you create this pristine, peaceful, utterly lifeless relationship. You're like two Buddhas sitting on opposite sides of a room, very enlightened and very alone. There's no passion, no friction, no real intimacy, because intimacy requires you to be human, fully, completely, embarrassingly human. And you're both too invested in being spiritual to allow that. This brings us to one of the core misunderstandings about spiritual teachings, particularly around attachment. You've heard it 1,000 times. Attachment is the root of suffering. Let go of attachment. Practice non-attachment. And this is true, in a sense. Clinging, grasping, trying to possess another person or make them responsible for your happiness, this is indeed suffering. But somewhere along the way, non-attachment got confused with non-connection, with not caring, with emotional unavailability dressed up as spiritual wisdom. True non-attachment, as Watts understood it, doesn't mean not loving fully. It means loving so completely, so totally, that you're not trying to control the outcome. It means being utterly present with someone while simultaneously holding everything lightly. It's the difference between holding a butterfly with an open hand versus clutching it in your fist. The open hand is non-attachment. The fist is clinging, but refusing to let the butterfly land on your hand at all. That's not non-attachment. That's fear. And fear is what we're really talking about here. The spiritually awake person is afraid. Afraid of losing the peace they've worked so hard to cultivate. Afraid that another person will disturb their carefully constructed inner equilibrium. Afraid that love will pull them back into the drama and suffering they finally escaped. And this fear is understandable. You've tasted freedom. You've experienced the relief of not being at the mercy of your emotions, your thoughts, your desires. Why would you risk that? But here's what Watts would tell you. That peace you're protecting, it's not real peace if it can only exist in isolation. Real peace, real freedom can dance with anything. It can handle conflict and passion and mess and uncertainty. It can love fully and still remain unshaken. If your peace requires you to avoid deep connection with another human being, then it's not peace. It's just control. It's just a more sophisticated form of fear. Think about what Watts taught about the unity of existence. Everything is connected. Everything is one. You are not separate from the universe, from nature, from other people. This isn't just a nice philosophical idea. It's the truth of existence. And if that's true, if you really understand that at a deep level, then loving another person isn't about losing yourself in them. It's about recognizing yourself in them. It's about seeing that the boundary between you and them is an illusion. That in loving them, you're loving yourself. That in opening to them, you're opening to life itself. But you can't have that recognition while remaining protected. You can't experience unity while maintaining separation. You can't know love while refusing to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the door through which love enters. And yes, it's also the door through which pain can enter. But you can't selectively close doors. You can't say yes to love and no to pain. They come together. They're inseparable. The spiritually aware person often believes they've moved beyond the need for another person. They've found fulfillment in their practice, in nature, in solitude, in meditation. And there is fulfillment there, real fulfillment. But then they use this fulfillment as a reason not to engage with the full spectrum of human experience. They've found a certain kind of bliss in aloneness, and they mistake this for enlightenment. But Watts would say that enlightenment isn't about transcending the human experience. It's about fully embracing it. It's about saying yes to all of it, the highs and the lows, the connection and the heartbreak, the passion and the grief. Enlightenment isn't about rising above life. It's about diving deeply into it. An intimate relationship is one of the most profound ways to do that. When you are in an intimate relationship, you can't hide. Not really, not for long. Another person sees you in ways you can't see yourself. They trigger you. They mirror back your shadows, your unhealed wounds, your remaining edges of ego. This is uncomfortable, deeply uncomfortable, and this is precisely why it's so valuable. Your meditation practice might help you calm your mind. Your spiritual studies might expand your understanding. But relationship, intimate relationship, will show you exactly where you're still asleep, where you're still defended, where you're still afraid. Most spiritually aware people, if they're honest, will admit that they're afraid of this. They're afraid of being seen completely. They're afraid of having their spiritual persona stripped away. They're afraid of being confronted with the parts of themselves they've tried to transcend through spiritual practice. And so they stay alone. They convince themselves it's a choice, a preference, a natural result of their evolution. But underneath, there's often fear. There's also the practical problem of standards. The spiritually aware person has very specific ideas about what a relationship should look like. It should be conscious, it should be evolved, there should be deep conversations about the nature of reality, there should be shared spiritual practices. Both people should be doing their inner work. There should be healthy communication, strong boundaries, mutual respect, and emotional maturity. And all of this sounds wonderful, but it's also a checklist. And love doesn't care about checklists. Love is irrational. Love is chaotic. Love happens with the wrong person at the wrong time in the wrong way. Love doesn't care if someone's done enough therapy or read enough books or meditated enough hours. Love is a force of nature, and trying to control it with your spiritual standards is like trying to redirect a river with your bare hands. You're not going to win. You're just going to exhaust yourself. And yet, the spiritually aware person tries. They swipe through dating apps with their list of requirements. Must be spiritual but not religious. Must understand consciousness but not be preachy about it. Must be emotionally available but not needy. Must be independent but also want partnership. Must be evolved but still human. Must be perfect while I work on being perfect. And no one meets the criteria. No one is quite right. There's always something missing, always some reason why it won't work. What's really happening? You're protecting yourself. You're using your standards as a shield. Because if no one is good enough, then you never have to take the risk. You never have to be vulnerable. You never have to find out if you're actually capable of intimacy, or if underneath all your spiritual understanding, you're still that scared child who's afraid of being hurt. Watts talked about the wisdom of insecurity, about how the attempt to be secure, to be safe, to be protected is itself the source of anxiety. Real security, real peace comes from accepting insecurity, from accepting that life is uncertain, that love is risky, that you might get hurt. And when you accept that, when you stop fighting against it, you're finally free. Free to love, free to connect, free to be fully alive. But the spiritually aware person often does the opposite. They use their spiritual practice to create a fortress of inner peace. and then they refuse to let anyone in because they might disturb that peace. They've worked so hard for their serenity, why would they risk it? But this isn't serenity. This is isolation disguised as enlightenment. Real serenity, real inner peace is like a deep ocean. Storms can rage on the surface, waves can crash, but the depths remain calm. That's the kind of peace worth cultivating, the kind that can handle the chaos of intimate relationship, the kind that can love fully, argue passionately, feel deeply, and still remain centered. But you don't develop that kind of peace by avoiding relationships. You develop it through relationships, through the very challenges and conflicts and messy human dynamics that spiritually aware people often try to transcend. Let's consider another angle. The spiritually aware person has often spent years, maybe decades, learning to be self-sufficient, learning that they don't need external validation, that happiness comes from within, that they are complete as they are, and all of this is true and valuable. But then they take it too far. They become so self-sufficient that they don't need anyone. And in not needing anyone, they can't truly receive love. Because receiving love requires a certain kind of openness, a certain willingness to acknowledge that yes, actually, human connection does matter, that we are social creatures, that intimacy is a genuine human need, not just a weakness to be overcome. There's a difference between neediness and need. Neediness is the desperate grasping, the belief that you can't survive without another person, the making them responsible for your emotional state. This is unhealthy. This is what you've rightly moved beyond. But need, genuine need for connection, for intimacy, for love, that's human, that's natural, that's nothing to be ashamed of or transcend. Watts understood this. He had relationships, he married, he loved. He didn't retreat to a cave to meditate in solitude for the rest of his life, because he understood that the spiritual path includes all of life. It's not about escaping from the world. It's about engaging with it more fully, more consciously, more courageously. And courage is what we're talking about. It takes courage to love. It takes courage to let someone see you completely, flaws and all. It takes courage to say, I want you, I choose you, even though you might hurt me, even though this might not work out. The spiritually aware person has courage in many areas. Courage to face their shadow. Courage to sit with difficult emotions in meditation. Courage to question everything they've been taught. But when it comes to romantic love, that courage often disappears. It's replaced by caution, by analysis, by holding back. Why? Because romantic love is the one area where all your spiritual understanding can't protect you. You can't think your way through heartbreak. You can't meditate away rejection. You can't use your knowledge of consciousness to avoid the very real pain of love gone wrong. And so, you avoid love itself. You stay on the shore, watching others swim, convinced that you've transcended the need to get wet. But what if the point isn't to transcend? What if the point is to participate? What if the spiritual journey isn't about rising above the human experience, but about diving more deeply into it? What if enlightenment isn't the absence of desire and emotion and connection, but the full embrace of all of it, with awareness, with presence, with an open heart? This is what Watts was really teaching. Not escape, but engagement. Not transcendence, but immanence. Not the denial of the self, but the expansion of the self to include everything. And that everything includes intimate relationship. It includes the mess, and the beauty and the challenge of loving another human being. So what does this look like practically? How does a spiritually aware person approach love in a way that's authentic, that doesn't require abandoning their spiritual insights, but also doesn't use those insights as a defense mechanism? First, you have to be honest with yourself, brutally honest. Are you actually not interested in a relationship, or are you afraid? Are you truly content in your solitude, or are you protecting yourself? Are your standards genuinely important to you, or are they a way to keep people at a distance? You have to sit with these questions. Really sit with them. Not in a meditation where you're watching your thoughts from a distance, but in a raw, vulnerable, uncomfortable way, where you let yourself feel what you're actually feeling. You might discover that underneath all your spiritual understanding, there's loneliness, there's longing, there's a deep desire for connection that you've been denying or minimizing. And that's okay. That's human. That doesn't make you less spiritual. It makes you more whole, because wholeness includes everything, including the parts of you that want love, that want partnership, that want someone to come home to at the end of the day. Second, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, truly vulnerable, not the curated vulnerability where you share your spiritual journey and your insights, but the real vulnerability where you show your fears, your insecurities, your moments of doubt, where you let someone see you when you're not wise or conscious or evolved, where you let them see you when you're just human. This is terrifying, because what if they judge you? What if they see that underneath all your spiritual practice, you're still struggling with the same things everyone struggles with? What if they discover that you're not as awakened as you seem? But here's the secret. They already know. Everyone already knows. You're not fooling anyone with your spiritual persona. People can sense when someone is hiding behind their spirituality. They can feel the distance, even if they can't name it. Real intimacy begins when you stop performing. When you stop trying to be the enlightened one, the conscious one, the wise one. When you just show up as you are, messy and imperfect and still growing. That's when real connection becomes possible. That's when someone can actually see you, know you, love you, not the spiritual version of you, the real you. Third, you have to release your ideas about what a spiritual relationship should look like. Maybe your partner doesn't meditate. Maybe they don't understand your spiritual concepts. Maybe they express love in ways that seem mundane or conventional. So what? Love isn't about sharing the same spiritual vocabulary. It's about genuine connection, about care, about presence, about showing up for each other in the real moments of life. Some of the most spiritually aligned relationships I've witnessed have been between people who would never use the word spiritual. They simply loved each other. They were present with each other. They supported each other. They challenged each other. They grew together. That's spiritual practice, whether they call it that or not. And conversely, I've seen relationships between two highly spiritual people that were absolutely devoid of real intimacy. They had all the right language. They attended retreats together. They meditated side by side, but they never really let each other in. They never really saw each other. They were so busy being spiritual that they forgot to be human. Fourth, you have to embrace conflict. The spiritually aware person often tries to avoid conflict, seeing it as unenlightened or unnecessary. They want everything to be peaceful, harmonious, understanding. But conflict is where growth happens. Conflict is where you discover your edges, your triggers, your remaining attachments. Conflict is where two separate individuals work out how to be together without losing themselves. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, it's absolutely essential. Watts would say that conflict is like the friction that creates fire. Without friction, there's no heat, no light, no transformation. A relationship without conflict is a relationship without depth. It's surface level. It's nice, it's pleasant, it's also ultimately boring and unfulfilling. So when conflict arises, and it will, don't see it as evidence that the relationship is wrong or that you're not compatible. See it as an opportunity to practice real consciousness, not the easy consciousness of sitting on a meditation cushion, but the difficult consciousness of staying present with someone else's pain, their anger, their difference from you. Fifth, you have to accept that love will change you. This is perhaps the scariest part for the spiritually aware person. You've worked so hard to become who you are. You've cultivated certain qualities, certain perspectives, certain ways of being. And love threatens all of that. Love will disrupt your routines. It will challenge your beliefs. It will demand that you grow in ways you might not have planned. And this is good. This is exactly what you need. Because spiritual growth isn't about perfecting yourself in isolation. It's about becoming more flexible, more adaptable, more capable of dancing with life in all its forms. A truly awakened person doesn't rigidly maintain their identity. They flow, they change, they evolve. An intimate relationship is one of the most powerful catalysts for that evolution. You might find that some of your spiritual beliefs were actually defense mechanisms. You might discover that your commitment to solitude was actually fear of intimacy. You might realize that your emphasis on independence was actually an inability to trust. Love will show you all of this. It will be uncomfortable. It will shake you. And that's exactly why it's so valuable. Sixth, you have to practice presence in a new way. You're good at being present with your breath, with your body, with the moment. But can you be present with another person? Really present? Not observing them, not analyzing them, not thinking about them, but just being with them. Feeling their energy, sensing their mood, meeting them where they are. This is a different kind of presence. It's not about inner awareness. It's about outer awareness. It's about getting out of your own head and your own experience and genuinely connecting with another consciousness. This is hard for people who spend a lot of time in meditation, because meditation is by nature an internal practice. You have to learn to direct that same quality of attention outward to another person. And when you do this, something magical happens. The separation between inner and outer dissolves. You realize that being present with another person is being present with yourself. That loving another person is loving yourself. That the division was always an illusion. This is the real meaning of unity consciousness, not just understanding it conceptually, but experiencing it in the messy, beautiful, complicated reality of intimate relationship. Seventh, you have to be willing to commit. The spiritually aware person often resists commitment, seeing it as attachment or limitation. They want to keep their options open, stay free, maintain flexibility. But commitment isn't limitation. Commitment is choosing. It's saying, of all the infinite possibilities, I choose this one. Not because it's perfect, not because I'm certain, but because I'm willing to show up for this, to invest in this, to see where this goes. Commitment is an act of faith, and faith, as Watts understood it, isn't about believing in something you can't see. It's about trusting the process, trusting life, trusting that even if things don't work out the way you planned, you'll be okay. You'll grow. You'll learn. You'll become more of who you're meant to be. Without commitment, relationships stay shallow. You're always holding back, always keeping one foot out the door, always protecting yourself from potential pain. And in protecting yourself from pain, you also protect yourself from joy, from depth, from real intimacy. Commitment is the willingness to say, I'm all in. I'm not protecting myself anymore. I'm here, fully, completely. Eighth, you have to release the timeline. The spiritually aware person often has ideas about when things should happen, when they should meet someone, how long it should take, what order things should unfold in. But love doesn't follow timelines. It happens when it happens. Sometimes it happens fast. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it happens with someone you least expect, at a time that seems completely wrong. If you're waiting for the right time, the right person, the right circumstances, you might wait forever. Because there is no right time. There's only now. There's only this moment, this person, this opportunity. And you have to decide whether you're going to say yes, or whether you're going to keep waiting for something better, something easier, something more aligned with your plan. Watts would say that the future is just an idea. It doesn't exist. All you have is now. And if someone is in front of you now, someone who touches your heart, someone who makes you feel alive, why would you sacrifice that reality for an imaginary future? Why would you let fear of what might happen rob you of what's happening right now? Finally, you have to remember that love is the point, not just romantic love, but love in general. Love is what you're here for, not enlightenment in some abstract sense, not perfecting your consciousness, not transcending the world, but love, opening your heart, connecting, caring, being moved by another person's existence. All the meditation, all the spiritual study, all the inner work, it's all in service of this, of becoming more capable of love, more capable of connection, more capable of seeing the divine in another person and in yourself. If your spiritual practice is making you less capable of love, less capable of intimacy, less capable of opening your heart, then something has gone wrong. You've mistaken the map for the territory. You've confused spiritual concepts with spiritual reality. The reality is that you are here, in a body, on this planet, with other human beings. And the most spiritual thing you can do is love them, fully, imperfectly, courageously, not because they're enlightened or conscious or evolved, but because they're here, because you're here, because this moment of connection is all you really have. So if you're spiritually awake and struggling to find love, consider this. Maybe you're not struggling to find love. Maybe you're struggling to allow love. Maybe the love is there, all around you, in unexpected forms, in imperfect people, in messy situations. And maybe the work isn't to find the right person or the right relationship. Maybe the work is to become the kind of person who can say yes to love when it shows up, who can open their heart even when it's scary, who can be vulnerable even when it's uncomfortable, who can commit even when it's uncertain. This is the real spiritual practice, not the meditation, not the study, not the understanding, but this, the willingness to love, the courage to connect, the faith to trust that even if you get hurt, even if it doesn't work out, you'll be more alive, more real, more yourself for having tried. Watts understood that life is meant to be lived, not observed. That consciousness is not about detachment, but about engagement. That the goal is not to transcend the world, but to participate in it fully. An intimate relationship, with all its challenges and complications and beautiful messiness, is one of the most profound ways to do that. So stop waiting. Stop analyzing. Stop protecting yourself. Someone out there is looking for exactly what you have to offer. Someone is ready to see you, to know you, to love you. Not the spiritual version of you, not the perfected version of you, but you, right now, flaws and all. And when you meet that person, don't overthink it. Don't create a list of reasons why it won't work. Don't compare them to some ideal in your mind. Just be with them. Feel what you feel. Let yourself be moved. Let yourself be changed. Let yourself fall. Because that's what love is. Falling, surrendering, letting go of control. And for the spiritually aware person, that's the final frontier, not transcending the ego, not achieving enlightenment, but simply allowing yourself to be human, to need, to want, to love. This is the invitation, not to find the perfect conscious relationship, not to wait until you're more evolved or more ready or more healed, but to open your heart right now, in this moment, to whoever is in front of you. To see them not as they should be, but as they are. And to let them see you the same way. That's the real spiritual work. That's the real awakening. Not rising above love, but diving deeply into it. Not transcending the need for connection, but embracing it fully. Not protecting your peace at all costs, but being willing to let that peace be disturbed, challenged, transformed by the presence of another human being. Because in the end, what is peace worth if it can only exist in isolation? What is enlightenment worth if it separates you from the very experience of being human? What is spiritual awakening worth if it makes you less capable of the one thing that matters most? Love. So this is the message. For everyone who has walked the spiritual path and found themselves alone, for everyone who has done the inner work and still can't seem to make a relationship work, for everyone who wonders if their spiritual awareness has somehow disqualified them from ordinary human love. It hasn't. You haven't transcended the need for love. You've just become more afraid of it. And that's okay. Fear is human too. But don't let that fear run your life. Don't let it convince you that you're too evolved for relationship, too conscious for ordinary love, too awakened to need another person. Because that's just the ego speaking, the spiritual ego, the most clever, most insidious form of ego there is. The truth, the real spiritual truth, is that love is everything. It's what you're made of. It's what you're here for. It's the ground of being, the substance of reality, the essence of consciousness itself. And you don't access that by staying separate, by protecting yourself, by remaining alone. You access it by opening, by risking, by being willing to get hurt, by loving anyway. So if there's someone in your life right now, someone you've been keeping at arm's length because they're not quite right, not quite conscious enough, not quite evolved enough, take another look. Look past the surface. Look past your judgments. Look past your checklist. And ask yourself, could I love this person? Could I open my heart to them? Could I let them see me, really see me? And if the answer is yes, even a little bit yes, then do it. Take the risk. Be vulnerable. Stop protecting yourself. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop holding out for someone who meets all your spiritual requirements. Because that person doesn't exist. And even if they did, you'd find some other reason to hold back. Because the real issue isn't finding the right person, it's being the right person. The person who's brave enough to love. This is what Watts would tell you. This is what all the great spiritual teachers would tell you if they were honest. That the spiritual path doesn't lead away from love. It leads deeper into it. That consciousness doesn't separate you from others. It connects you more profoundly. That awakening doesn't mean transcending the human experience. It means embracing it fully in all its beauty and pain and messiness and glory. So embrace it. Embrace the fear. Embrace the uncertainty. Embrace the possibility of getting hurt. Because on the other side of that embrace is everything you've been looking for. Not in some mystical, abstract sense, but in a very real, very tangible, very human experience of being loved and loving in return. That's a secret. That's what the spiritually awake need to understand. You haven't graduated beyond the need for love. You've just become more aware of what's at stake. And yes, what's at stake is your peace, your freedom, your carefully constructed sense of self. But what you gain is life itself. Real life, messy, unpredictable, heartbreaking, beautiful life. And isn't that what you signed up for when you started this spiritual journey? Not to escape life, but to live it more fully. Not to protect yourself from pain, but to open yourself to all of it. The pain and the joy, the loss and the love, the fear and the courage. So live it. Stop observing from the sidelines. Stop analyzing and overthinking and protecting yourself. Jump in. Get wet. Let love change you, challenge you, break you open. Because that's the real spiritual practice. Not the safe practice of meditation and study, but the wild, scary, utterly transformative practice of opening your heart to another human being and seeing what happens. Will you get hurt? Probably. At some point. That's part of the deal. But you'll also experience moments of connection so profound, so beautiful, so real, that they'll make all the spiritual experiences you've had in meditation pale in comparison. Because this isn't abstract consciousness you're connecting with. It's a living, breathing, feeling human being. And there's no substitute for that. No spiritual practice can replace it. No amount of enlightenment can make you not needed. So needed. Wanted. Admit that you want it. Stop pretending you've transcended desire. Stop hiding behind your spiritual understanding. Be honest with yourself, with others, with life. Say it out loud. I want love. I want partnership. I want someone to share this journey with. I want to be seen, known, understood by another person. I want to love and be loved. There's no shame in that. That's not unspiritual. That's not unenlightened. That's being human. And being fully human is the most spiritual thing you can do. Because spirit doesn't exist separate from form. Consciousness doesn't exist separate from matter. God doesn't exist separate from creation. It's all one. It's all the same. An intimate relationship is one of the most direct ways to experience that unity. So stop separating. Stop dividing your life into spiritual and worldly, consciousness and matter, awakening and relationship. It's all one journey. And that journey includes love. Messy, human love. Not perfect, not always conscious, not always evolved, but real and alive and waiting for you to say yes.